Thanks for joining us for another episode of Net Builders 360. I'm your host and the creator, RJ Stewart. Remember, smash that like button, subscribe so you can see all of our new videos coming up. But for now, enjoy the show. Hey, Net Builders, thanks for joining us for another episode today. We have, we have Scott Harris here today, and we are going to have yet another great episode. Sorry about that, I got tied up. A bunch of value, bunch of information. And Scott, I'll hand the floor over to you. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I mean, my name is Scott Harris. I'm the COO of Building Construction Group. I've done a lot of things in life. We don't have time to list them all here, but I'm focused on building and creating beautiful homes and structures and restaurants and you name it. I'm usually called the Renaissance Man by most of my friends. So I'm happy to be here with you and have some good conversation about good things.
Outstanding. And thanks again for being here, Scott. What got you into construction?
I I don't know I was ever out of it. I think I found that it was some way to uh, create something that's tangible, and to make something that stands the test of time just was so naturally in my bones that it was this calling that I had. And I haven't been able to stop. I stopped as a child. I just started, disassembling my room and grabbing all the tools I could and seeing what I could make, and didn't do a great job when I was younger, but it's gotten a lot better, people have said.
I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's an interesting profession because, it's one of those things that don't really carry the kind of level of prestige that most professions do. It's not something that you can go to college, and be a construction major in. You can do construction management. It's interesting that the architects, the engineers, all the people that tell you how to build it, those are the ones that are trained. But the people that are actually building it, it's an apprenticeship program and trial and error. And so, it wasn't really a goal of mine to do this as much as I just couldn't stop doing it. And I kind of gave up aspirations of having this prestigious title after my name, and I just accepted that what I do is prestigious.
I like that. I like that train of thought. I like that mindset right there. I mean, the value on what you do is, determined by how much you value it.
Right. Exactly.
And yeah, I think that's an amazing mindset to have there.
Thank you.
Um, so in the background there, is that one of your designs there?
That is one of the homes that I've built, and I had a lot of input on the design of it as well.
Wow.
I work with a partner that's an architect, William Hefner, and he's responsible for those. And we work together and build these big, beautiful homes like that.
Wow. So yeah, so
I like
I'm
to say it's mine, and I'm sitting in my backyard right now, but
I have so many questions here. So I'll just ask one for now. But the design process, like are you given certain parameters that you can't go outside of or whatever, or do you just get free reign to just go bonkers with it?
well, what makes it fun is that every client is so different, and there's the occasional client that gives you free reign, but generally that doesn't happen because most of your clients that you have are coming to you because they've already seen your work. They like something you've done. There's three things that influence most design, which is not maybe the most fortunate things, and it's how you want to be seen,
Mhm.
what you've seen or what you've seen on TV or a magazine. And so a lot of things are a derivation of something that they've already seen. But interestingly enough, through the process, you then get an opportunity to say, hey, what about this? I got an idea. I like that. And it's interesting because a lot of times clients, after they've had dinner at their favorite restaurant, or after they've been on vacation, they come up with all kinds of new ideas, right?
Hmm.
And then you try to incorporate and explain why those didn't work appropriately. However, as you weave those in, you start getting something that's more organic and interesting, and the end product doesn't usually looks nothing like the beginning product, and it becomes very personal. The goal is to make a home or a product that really tailored to that person's needs, right? It should be like a well-fitted suit. What works for one person doesn't work for another. We all have different lifestyles and body sizes, and so we need to tailor those to your needs. And so each one really, if it's done well, should be unique, not a widget.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that. Do you have like a even though you tailor it to the individual client, do you have like a signature thing that you do with every design you do?
Well, I've been signing my name on the concrete, but that doesn't count. No, I'm kidding. Uh, I would say the signature thing I do, which is not really discernible, is a certain level of alignments, a certain level of reasonable perfection, and a certain level of proportions. And those things, you can walk through any house and not recognize why those things were so special, but each one will feel unique and of its own. But there's a feeling of just, simplicity that you walk through that. It's when you don't have to walk through a house and ask yourself a lot of questions about why, or question it, and it just feels natural. That's probably the signature that I think that we do. So it allows you to relax and just say, hey, this kind of works.
I like that. Um, did you so you mentioned, going to college, there's no college program for exactly what you do. You had to take a bunch of different courses to create what you do now. You know what I mean? To kind of put that all into one. Like, what do you think is, for someone who wanted to pursue what you're doing, what do you think is the most important thing to learn?
Patience.
Mm,
That's the most important thing to learn, and perseverance, and the ability to understand that whatever you think you've done well that day, that you can always do it better the next day. um, to recognize that there's always somebody next to you that's done it better, and to seek those people out and find out how they've done it, but not to stop on that path and ever say you've made it. The moment that you say you've made it is the moment that you start to stall and the others start to rise above you. Kodak, they thought they had a really great, corner on the market, but IBM, we make supercomputers, and
mm,
they kind of stalled. Blockbuster, right? We've
yeah.
got the best collection of DVDs out there, and then you have other companies like Netflix who were like, we're just going to be renting DVDs, and look what they did,
Mm.
right? And so you
I
got to
do
kind of,
remember that they used to rent DVDs. I forgot about that.
that's how they started. They were competing with Blockbuster to rent DVDs through the mail.
Yeah.
And so you've got to keep looking around the corner and finding the next best way to do something. Look what Google's done, right? It's just, I'm nowhere, I can't associate myself at any level with any of those companies, but it's just a general reminder that how do you learn? It's about staying open to see what's available. You know, schooling is great, but it's kind of takes you so far, and it just teaches you the boundaries of perseverance. But from there, you're on your own, right?
Mm.
You're sailing,
And
and
I
you've
don't
got
think
to find
school
that.
teaches you innovation.
It should, right?
It doesn't
It's
though.
really it's such an organized curriculum of material that it 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 doesn't it teaches you organization, not innovation, right?
Mm.
And you need that, but and the innovation is there's some schools that are probably better suited to that, but you're more or less following in a curriculum. There's certain expectations of the exercise. Here's the parameters that you should fall between, and do, I wasn't successful when I was in school because I would challenge my teachers, and they had a certain discipline way they would do it, and I said, are we done? All right, now I'm going to go around and teach the students the right way to do this. Mr. Harris, please sit down. I understand that because of your curriculum and because that you have to stay fixed, but I'm not employed by the school system, so I have the ability to teach the students the next level on how to do this. You already admitted it's not accurate. Mr. Harris, you know,
That
this
is
isn't
great.
working well. Let me just try to do it in real life. So,
That was great. But I think that's great that you do, you know, you, because there's so many people that fall inside of a box and they put it, that's nice little ceiling on that box, and they put nice little sturdy walls around that box, and they say,
right,
let's stay in it forever, even though it's not perfect in there. There's a big world out there and it's scary. And I could probably find a better way to live and better things outside of that box, but they're so afraid to travel outside of it. But I really applaud you and commend you for saying, hey, we're not staying in this box, guys. They showed you how to do it in here. Now let's get out of the box and let's do it a more accurate way. Let's do it a better way. Because people stick with in the military we called it SOPs, or standards or procedures.
right,
And it's that's just a guideline, you know? Like it's a guideline. Now let's add some flair to it. Let's add a couple other things to
right,
it, make it
right.
better.
Yeah, you know, it's your choice. Do you want to be a lion in this world, or do you want to be the sheep? You know,
Mm.
I say, nah, bad joke, bad dad joke there. But you know, it's true, and I'm actually working with a group of people to reimagine the industry in the way that it can be, because there's so much complacency that we have within it. You know, if it worked, just keep doing it, right?
Hmm.
I mean, like Toys R Us did that, right? It just worked. Sell toys. Why change? Well, you know, it doesn't
No,
work.
that's
You've
well.
got to keep reinventing the wheel. And a lot of the products and the the way that we construct things are so antiquated. I mean, when you look at this, the technology that's being used, as far as the building materials of themselves, I would say they're antiquated. People always argue with me on this because they said, "Oh, the technology is just amazing what we're putting in these buildings," right? But then I look at it and I say, I put 7,242 linear feet of wiring in your building to make it wireless.
Hmm.
No, that seems counterintuitive to me. If I was God, I'm looking down and say, you put a lot of wires to make something wireless. I don't know how that worked out very well for you. You know,
That's a very very interesting way to look at that. I've personally never, yeah, I've never really stopped to think about that at all. I don't think it ever crossed my mind, but now, um, wow, huh? Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of wires running around in my house, but everything is wireless here, and now I'm looking around like,
the more wires I add, the more wireless everything becomes, right? You know, and there's so many things in the industry that are like that if you start to dig in as to how we build things and how we're still creating. And there really are better ways to do it. There's less expensive ways. There's ways to create structures. I mean, if take a look at just the way that a lot of the homes are built, you know, it's the biggest jump that they had was from balloon framing, you know, to stick framing, where they're just 2x4 studs, you know, at 16 inches on center. And we've looked at different ways of doing it, at concrete and all kinds of other solid structures, but there's other ways to construct these shells. Like, you know, I would love to, I wish to resurrect, you know, what's Steve Jobs, you know, or maybe not, because maybe he really didn't have much to do with it. Maybe he just pushed people. But let's rethink how we build homes, right?
Mhm.
And let's stop building them same way. And so there's a lot of things that can be done, and it's interesting because when you find a better way to do it, it becomes less expensive, right? And
Mhm.
it's less expensive. You could make more of them. And I don't know where you live, but there's a lot of homeless people around that I see every day that I think would probably appreciate some innovation where you could more quickly produce structures for people.
Yes, yes, yes. Because I mean, we have a finite amount of land on this planet, you know, but houses really aren't getting built as fast. I mean, relatively, I don't know how fast the typical home is built. Honestly, what's usually,
They take, you know, I would say on the custom homes that we build, they're probably anywhere from 16 to 18 months. But those include, they're a 20,000 square foot home where
Mm,
you're excavating down sometimes 20, 30, 40 feet to stabilize the site. They're a beast of their own. They're someone's castle that they're building. Um, but there's other ways, for the masses to be able to have homes and structures. And I did this thing where I got up in a plane and I'm flying over
uh-huh.
and I'm looking down and speaking about finite land. We don't look that intelligent because we have so much clustered, you look at like the way they live in, Los Angeles and Japan and we're all clustered, and the more that you can put into that smaller space, the better. We keep putting us in the box, and you
Mm,
divide the box up into more pieces and sell it for more money. And you think you're successful because you got a piece of the box, but it's not infinite, but the land that's out there is significant, and it's significantly unused and untapped. And there's healthy ways for the environment to be able to use that you can actually give back. So,
mm.
um, it's just for everybody to congregate and cluster into this little box. And meanwhile, you've just got open fields, for hours as you're flying over a plane, right?
That's very
There's
true.
if I was God, and I'm not, I'd be looking down like, God, you guys are not smart again.
Spread
This
out. I
I
got
had
all
all
over
this land. I made a
land.
planet for you. I made all this space. You could even live on water. There's all kinds of things you could have done, but you just keep going to that little box, you know?
I'm, you're a very insightful person. You're a
Well,
very insightful person. Because yes, when I look down on the plane, you're right. There's like squares, huge pieces of land that's just green. Just sit.
right. Beautiful. Yeah. So I think God gave us, or however this planet was created, there was a lot of space that was given to us, right?
Mm. Well, why
So,
do you think that we stay in that? Why do you think we stay so cluttered? Because we really do. I was born in New York and we lived on top of each other, no
right.
backyards or anything. But then you go out to New York State and there's just fields and fields of land, just acres,
I
wild.
just think, I think it's in our nature to want what the other person has. I think it's in our nature to be drawn into what's comfortable and what you know. And if somebody else is living here, I want to live here. And then businesses start to develop there. And there's something to be said for the economic environment that you want to be close to homes, and your homes want to be close to your businesses and schools.
Mm,
But it doesn't mean it's nothing to say that if you started evolving other parts of this beautiful planet, then you could create out there, different ways of other economic means where maybe part of the economic means is actually producing more of these beautiful structures, right? There's just it's it's interesting, we appreciate comfort more than we do diversity, I think.
I completely agree. Completely agree. But it's people like you that travel out of that comfort zone. No one ever does anything great in a comfort zone. Ever.
Right.
If
No,
you're comfortable, I'm
it's
sorry.
right. Being comfortable. If I'm comfortable, I feel like I'm starting to die. You know, I'm like I may as well just go get that box and put me in it because there's no reason to be here. I,
Exactly.
I'm not saying that I've done great things or will, but I'm only happy when I'm doing something that hasn't been done. And when I'm just the way that I always look at it is figure out exactly what everyone has done, right? Put that on paper, organize that, understand it. And first step I'll do is now reverse it. What happens if we did all of these steps backwards? Okay, see what happens. It's interesting when you mix up the same recipe, what you can create.
Hmm.
Next thing I like to do is let me see if I can come up with something that is not anything on this list. Those are my rules. Now, it's always not reasonable that you can do that, but somehow by doing that exercise, you come up with a big aha moment.
Hmm.
Thomas Edison, he had a bright idea about let me create a light bulb. These candle things aren't that great anymore. After 1,000 tries, but it's also the perseverance because he took them, over 1,000 times of trying it. You know,
Mhm.
I tell my sons that just because what you've done doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you stop. You know, what if Tom, if he stopped at 972nd try and said, "I'm done." Who knew it was 1002nd? He finally hit it. So you got to have the perseverance. You know, it's probably not for everybody. You know, I think we're somebody told me that you can't really do a better job. You're doing the best you can do because whatever you're doing is the tools that you were given, and you are doing the best that you can. So, but if you have that ability and you have that desire, don't squash it. Use it. Explore it instead of sitting there on that same couch with the same drink, watching the same show. Try
Some
something
people's
different.
some people's 100% is someone else's 50%. You know, I
Yeah.
completely agree with that. You know, some people I used to get frustrated with with other entrepreneurs I would be talking to or I'm really close to, and I'm like, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that? And they're like, at right now I'm doing my best, and then I had to really sit back and think to myself like, okay, at this point in time, they don't have that education or they don't have these resources. So they really are doing their best. My best isn't their best, and their best isn't my best. And I fall short sometimes too because somebody else has expectations of me, but
Right.
I'm doing my 100%, and they're like, that's not enough, you know. But I really like what you said about Thomas Edison. If he had stopped, um, this would be a very different world right now.
Yeah. I mean, where would LED wouldn't be the big thing to take it over?
Yeah.
You know, and that was somebody, I think it was in Japan, an inventor trying to just create some, you know, I think it was in the 50s or 60s that finally took off. But yeah, it's interesting. I like to say that I tell my team that good is the enemy of great.
Mm.
And because so many people will like often say, good, what do you think of it? It's really good. What do you think? It's good. That's really good. They're like, but then they stop, right? You know, they've got that far. They feel like, you know, getting a C or B. That's good. That's
Mhm.
pretty good. So good is the enemy of great. And then you have to recognize that not to stop at good. You have to try to achieve greatness.
Definitely. And unfortunately, the way the world is going, or has been, there's been a huge celebration of mediocrity.
Oh,
So it's
it's celebrate. It is. Mediocrity is celebrated.
yes.
It's
So it
expected.
creates comfort, which
Yeah.
breeds complacency, which stops innovation, and it's frustrating.
Oh, it's just maddening. Yeah, you're asked, you know, you're trained to be complacent.
Mm.
You're I mean, mediocrity is basically middleism, right? I mean, that's what it is. And so you're trained to be in that thing because you're an easier target to sell things to. You're an easier target as a society to control, you know,
Mm.
right? You're more manageable as a group of mediocre people. Not to say that anyone shouldn't be, or that, you know, not to discount anyone, but it's an easier group if everyone's just doing the same thing that you need to manage. You know, sure you can imagine if you had a bunch of, you know, thinkers that were the other way, you know, I don't think I need to send my children to school. I have a new idea. I'm not buying cars, you know, I'm living this way. So it could create some chaos if you have too much of that, but everything's just needs to fall in the middle of things, right?
Yeah.
So, and you know, you need different kinds of people. You know, there's some people that don't want to, they'd like to be led. They enjoy it. You know, and if you have a bunch of leaders and there's nobody to follow, then therefore you're just basically leading yourself
That's
into
true.
insanity. So we need all kinds of types of people. I mean, if mediocrity is falling in middle, that means there's a high and a low. Without it, you know, there is no curve anymore.
Very good way of looking at that. Very good way. Very good way.
I feel like you bring out the better side of me in the better words because I'm so used to speaking to you know, subcontractors and teams grunting all day.
So
Yeah.
what does the team look like? What is a like your typical team? What does the team look or consist of?
Uh, you know, the team consists of generally it's an architect, You've got an architect, there's generally an interior designer, there's a project engineer, structural engineer, there's usually a manager for the client, there is a geotechnical engineer in looking at the soil's conditions, there's waterproofing consultants looking at how to avoid water intrusion problems, and you've got the city of Los Angeles or whatever your building and safety department is that's overseeing all of that. Then you have third-party deputies that oversee those agencies' work, um, and then you come to us, the general contractor side or the building side, and then we manage all of the teams, and we have probably thousands of people that we're managing that are actually doing all the things that have to be in alignment with all of the other teams' work that they've already created. So
Wow.
it's quite an intricate process, maybe too intricate, to be able to construct these. And when you think, unless you're building tract homes, every one of these is a new widget that you're making. It's a one-off, and so you always have unexpected challenges when you're constructing these. It just there's there each one is its own prototype, right? And
Yeah.
so because of that, it creates a lot of secondary work for people to come back, and it also creates some level of perfection and understanding. But it's quite complex to consider what goes into just creating, a place to sleep and turn on your TV and have a lot of wires where you feel like you're in a wireless zone.
That's actually very amazing. Because people that live in a house don't typically think about all the work that went into it, every detail that went into it. And I can imagine that it does create a perfectionist out of you.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were talking about I forgot, I was reading the article about Elon Musk and his engineers. They were constantly just all the time because he's like, release this, and they're like, no, it's not done yet, we still have to do this, still have to do that, and it has to be perfect, and he's like, no, release it now. And his engineers are notoriously angry at him all the time. Every time he walks in the room, they're like, oh man, he's back. So I imagine that due to the fact that you're building something that I imagine you put a lot of yourself into, when do you decide this is done?
I get this little, well, technically you're done when you've completed everything on the set of permitted drawings. But there's a sense of peace that comes over me that I just feel like this kind of like meter that just goes back and forth. And, when I walk through the home, something just doesn't feel right. And I just wait till it kind of everything feels centered. I've, I have this intuitive sense as well. And I thank God, because I don't think I'd be in business anymore if I didn't. But I walk into one of my projects and I'll walk over and say, just pull off that piece of drywall. Why? I just want to see what's there. This is a true story. And I see there's insulation in there. Pull off the insulation. There's pipes. Why are you staring at the pipes, Scott? I don't know. There's something. Oh, look at that. And I see a screw that's just knit that was coming out of somewhere else that we put in, right? Or somebody, one of our team members, and it just nicked the pipe and it's in there.
Wow.
And that's a rare thing to ever happen, but it's just the reality of building these things with so many trades layering things on. And so I walk through and I'm like, see, next time I feel like removing a piece of drywall, remove it. Yes, sir. And so I kind of walk through and I get a sense, or it's the technical side of what's on your list and the to do and what the clients ordered and purchased, but there's also a reassurance when you get that kind of calm center feeling that I think this is it. This is it. We did it.
I love that. So I create web pages. So I'll spend hours and hours upon it. Nothing as detailed as building a home, something someone is going to live in. I create an experience where people are going to stop in for a second, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes,
Right.
a couple of things. But when I finish a website, I sit there and I'm like, and it feels great to finish it.
Right.
So when I say that to ask, when you finished your first home, like, what was the feeling that you got? Like, you know, just standing outside and looking at it like, wow. Like, can you describe that feeling?
Yeah, it. I can describe it as indescribable. You know, it's it's a feeling when you just get this like resonance of tingles that run through your body, and a sense of, and as a sense of peace that hits you, that you're here doing the right thing, you know, that you accomplished the goal, and that you've made somebody's life better, right? You
Yeah.
know, that, and you're doing what you love in life, and you've done it well, and you've done it to your best. But you know, it lasts for about 14 seconds before I start to critique everything and say I could have done that better, I should have done that faster, there's a better way, there's a newer way. um, and then you're busy on to your next to try to repeat it and see if you can pass your last record. So I try not to revel in the joy of those moments too long, because if I do, there's some pain that's going to be around the corner from somewhere else.
Gotcha, gotcha. So would you say that you're your toughest critic?
Yeah, I am. We have talks all the time at night about how I can do a better job. So yeah, well, I don't know if I'm my toughest critic. I would say there's a lot of people there that are that are critical out there, but you know, you always have people with unrealistic expectations because of what's possible. And you know, the reality is when you're dealing with clients who don't do this every day, or some have, they base their opinions sometimes on what they heard from somebody else on what the cost should be, or, and they don't really understand, or what, how long it should take, without having a full understanding of why did it cost that much and why did it take that long. We're doing something different here for you.
Mhm.
And when it takes longer, it actually costs more because we're doing more. And so, but you know, it's incumbent on us to educate the clients so they understand what it is you're doing. So far, you know, knock on wood here, we've it's been good. And I think, you know, having an honesty and transparency through what it is that you're doing, sharing that with them all the way through, you foster a relationship where they do start to trust, because you do have their best interests and you are their advocate.
Mm, definitely, definitely. So, oh, go ahead. You're about to
I'm
say.
going to have to, I've got an emergency meeting that I'm going to have to get going to soon, because I have to really go and build these things.
Gotcha.
But I'm like, I would rather just sit here all day with you and chat. So
Well,
I'd love to,
I was
yeah.
just about to ask, how can we get in touch with you? How can clients get in touch with you? So I could put it in the description.
Oh, okay, great. They can reach me at Scott, SCOTT, at buildingcgroup.com. That's my email address.
Mhm.
The company name is Building Construction Group. Um, and you can also check out our website. I don't know if I want your opinion, maybe I do, but it's at buildingcgroup.com. So, um, also on Instagram at, oh geez, what is my handle? Let me think. I think it's Scott underscore Harris underscore building. So
Perfect, perfect. I
yeah.
will have that in the description, and every people, you guys on Net Builders, go check out the site.
All right. Thank you so much. That was really enjoyable to chat with you.
Same here. Thanks,
You
Scott, for being on here with us.
stretched me a little further than I before we talked.
All right, gotcha. All right. Well, until next time, see you guys soon, and thanks again for joining us, Scott.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Bye.
Bye.